Hi everyone and welcome back to Koala's Keeping. I am Koala speaking. Today I am comfortably on my couch with my little blue high behind me and my drum above me. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about, for if you're new here, I am a shamanic practitioner mainly within the Nordic tradition, but I'm also initiated into Nustakarpa and the Munai rites. So today I'm going to talk about something that I don't think I've ever talked about before, and it's the principle of some things aren't for us. So when we walk our spiritual path, there is a saying or a belief that we meet our teachers when we are supposed to. And I truly believe that when we walk our path with integrity, with truthfulness, with trust to the universe and trust to ourselves and our own intuition and trust to our path, we do meet our teachers when we are supposed to meet them. And along the path that we walk, we also need to be so connected to ourselves and to our intuition and trust that enough to also know when to not engage in something. So I have talked a little bit about in a previous video about the 10 red flags. I don't remember if it was in Swedish or English though. 10 red flags when you are in the spiritual community, 10 things to look out for in the spiritual community. And this is not that, but it's it might be connected to it because it's not red flags I'm going to talk about today. But so there is a saying that I heard the first time almost yeah, like a decade ago, I think. Like a decade ago. Not quite, maybe a little less than a decade ago. And it is that if you are no matter what your next move is, your next step is, if something comes, if there's a hint, if there's something coming in your way, so something comes between you and it. So it can be like you're really looking forward to meeting up with someone. This is just a small example, almost an everyday example of listening to your intuition and being guided right. Okay, so if you are set on like you're going to this place and you're going to be there at 10 and it's now 8 a.m. and you need to go, you know how you're going to get there to get in time to be in this place and this event. It might be a gathering. Let's say it's a gathering of people. There's nothing you will miss except for maybe just the connection with other people if you miss it. Let's take one that's just a light example. So you're sitting there in the morning and everything goes to plan except that you miss the bus. And you're like, oh, okay, well, I can still make the event if I take my bike. Let's say that. Or the other way around. You're gonna take your bike. I ride a bike, so or your car. And whatever vehicle you decide you're gonna take, your tires blow. And you're like, oh no, okay, so I really want to go to this event, so I will put off taking this to the repair shop because I really want to go to the event and I can still make the bus. Let's say that. So you're going to the bus and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting. And then someone comes up and say, oh yeah, there's been an accident down the road, so the bus ain't coming soon because it's been blocked by traffic. And you're like, oh crap, okay, how can I get to my event on time? And this is where you're gonna stop, okay? Because if something comes between the first time, it can be, yeah, you should take another route. Maybe you shouldn't take a vehicle of your own. Maybe there's something on the road ahead that you are supposed to miss out on, because it can be like you would end up in an accident if you took your car or your bike. So that's why the tire is blown, because you need to listen to your intuition, and your guys they wanna stop you from going and taking that route. So the first hinder on your path, you're like, the first block on your path, you're like, okay, I can't do it this way. Maybe I can do it that way. If the second attempt isn't fruitful, then you should really stop and think, is this right for me at this time? So let's see, you're thinking about, okay, but I really want to meet these people. I really want to go there. How can I do this? And then you take an Uber. I don't know if Uber is available in your country, but let's say you call a cab or an Uber, and then you go, and then there's a third obstacle. You're just about to reach the event, and there's an obstacle on the road. And you realize that, okay, I can still make it. I bet I will be like a few minutes late, but that's okay. It's nothing fancy. If I walk, if I pay the driver, open the door, and walk the rest of the way, because it's walking distance, but I will be a little late. Should you do it? That's the question. What would you do? Would you open the door and go out and walk the rest of the way? Or would you not? Me personally, I would not. If I missed the bus, or if the bus didn't come, if the bus was like held up a few blocks from me and couldn't reach me nowhere near in time, I would go home. I would not, depending, because it depends on how connected I feel to the universe at that moment in time, how connected I feel to my own intuition. And so it depends on my own mental, physical, and spiritual health at that moment, because there have been times where I have had obstacle 1, obstacle 2, obstacle 3, and I've still tried to go, and something has happened, not to me, but around me. Or I have been witness to something that I wish I hadn't been witness to. There was a lot of years ago. I think it was like in 2007. It was a lot of years ago. I was working in an amusement park, and I had to take the train to work. And during the morning, there were like small things holding me back from making that train. So I overslept. That was the first thing. I didn't hear my alarm, and I always hear my alarm. That's the first. That's like strike one. The second one was, I think I didn't really have, when I didn't have time to eat the proper breakfast or do my morning yoga. So instead of taking the time and giving myself time and calling in and saying I will be half an hour late, I actually I just wrapped something up and then went out the door, and I wasn't grounded, centered, or anything else. I just, oh crap, I need to go now, and I just grabbed some stuff and went out the door. Let's say, I'm gonna tell you this, I did get the time to eat my breakfast in peace, because I missed the bus. Okay, so I missed the bus to the train, and that's when I should have gone home. I didn't. I walked to the train. I almost ran. I never run when I'm in a hurry. I don't have anything against running per se, but I hate being stressed. I don't like to run with stress in my body. So I almost ran, and I did make the train, because the train was a little bit late. So I made it, and I was like, oh yeah, thank you. I was okay, I'm here. What happens? 3 stations later, there's an accident, and I am being a witness to that accident. I wasn't that impacted by it. There was an accident with the train. So the train that I was on had an accident. Okay. And I was I was witness to some horrible stuff that morning that I wish I hadn't been witness to. And I hadn't been if I had just listened to all of the obstacles, right? So I was witness to this horrible accident, and mainly how it affected other people, how it affected the driver of the train. And as a cherry on top, I was stuck on that train for 2 hours before it could be removed. I had plenty of time to eat my my breakfast that I had brought. I did not do yoga on the train, right? And I had to sit on a train with a lot of stressed people that couldn't understand why they couldn't just open the doors and let us walk on the tracks to the next station. I perfectly understood why they couldn't do that. And I also sat there and thought, oh, well, I put myself here. If I had just done my morning yoga, so I couldn't have prevented the accident. So I didn't even put any thought into that part because that was happening outside of me. I wish I really felt bad for the driver and for the people involved in the accident, like because I was really far back on the trains. I wasn't affected more than like a jump scare, you know. So I sat there and was like, well, I did this to myself. I should have just called my work and said, I'm gonna be half an hour late. I'm gonna have to take another route this morning, so I'm gonna be half an hour late. Without knowing that this would happen, I would have had to take another route because if I had done my morning yoga, had my breakfast, and then looked up how to travel to my work on time, the accident would have happened and I would have been given a different route on my app or on my computer. And I then could have called my work a second time and let them know the specific time I would get there, taking the new route into consideration. So I would say there are plenty of things in the spiritual community that you can name the rule of three, and this is one of them. But this is three. If there's three obstacles on your path, don't take the route. And that means for me, it means if I have a teacher, if I have met a new teacher, I'm in awe of a spiritual person, or it can be a teacher in another area as well. If I'm in awe of that person, or if a person is what's the word? If a person reaches out to me and say, I have these services, I can help you with this, etc. And I'm like, oh, great, that's perfectly what I need right now. Because sometimes we can be in a situation open to something new and awaiting, or not even have time to wait for it. And something just pops up and we're like, oh yeah, that's what I need. Sometimes that's a good thing. When I was looking for the Munaki rights, that's what happened to me. I've told this story before, how I looked through a curriculum of a shamanic school, you can say, and I saw what it entailed, and I was like, well, I don't need all of that stuff. I don't need all of this information, but I feel drawn to this. I feel drawn to the Munaki rights. This is what I need. So I had stated that to myself and out loud. And then just within a month, maybe 2 months, maybe somewhere within a couple of months, I think I stated it around the spring equinox that year, which is about the 20th of March. And then 2 months later, yeah, I saw an ad for the Moon Key rights. Just do, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what I'm looking for, those. And then everything just fell into place. I didn't even know how to pay for it. I just knew I had to make it work. And when I put myself out there and I was like, okay, how can I make this work? How can I do all of this? And then within just a couple of days, it had all fallen into place, and because it was meant for me. But sometimes when we meet teachers or something, it can be the opposite. It can be like obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, and we're like, but this feels so right to me. And that's when we need to stop and acknowledge the fact that even though the path is right for us, maybe the means or the teacher or the person or the pace isn't for us. Recently, I had a similar experience. I had promised myself to say yes to, because I to say yes to people wanting to help me. Okay, because I have a problem with accepting help and asking for help. That's not my strong side. Not my strong suit at all. So I had made a promise to myself, and the day after, you guys, someone offered me healing, and it or like it was a healing ceremony, and I did feel a bit like, ooh, I don't know. And then I was like, oh, get a grip. I was talking to myself like, oh, get a grip. It was just yesterday that I promised myself that I would accept help from others. And this was free of charge. So I was like, okay, yeah, sure. The date that it is, it looks free in my schedule. I can, yeah, of course. Thank you very much. I'm so grateful. Yes, thank you. And I signed up. So the first obstacle was that little hesitation from my part, because there's there is hesitation because there's a you have to make a distinction between hesitation because of your low self-esteem, or like the feeling of not being worthy of something that someone is offering you. And this was a friend, okay? So this wasn't like a random person on Instagram or something just texting me, DMing me and saying, oh, I am so wonderful, here you are for free. No, I would never accept that. This was someone I know. So but there's a distinction between a hesitation because I don't feel worthy, and the hesitation because my intuition is telling me it might not be right for me at this time. So I had that hesitation, and that was the first thing, and I should have known that I was really connected to my inner self at that moment. I had done so much work and I really felt connected, and yet I had that hesitation, and I didn't interpret it the right way. I interpreted it as my low self, a part of my low self-worth. I didn't interpret it as my inner guidance talking to me in that moment in time. So, and I was just so grateful that something happened the day after, and the day after it's kind of, it took me 2 months to get the Muneki right. The day after is a bit quick, but I like I like when things just come. So I didn't really think about it. So anyway, when the date came, that was my second obstacle, because I was just about to I had brought forth everything I had prepared myself mentally. I did feel a little bit off, but I actually put that aside and thought, well, sometimes I feel off before receiving healing, because I need to let go of something I'm not ready to let go of, and I should just show up for myself anyway. So I really didn't listen to my intuition a second time, because I was like, oh no, this is just me putting blocks up for myself. I should, So I mentally prepared myself. I prepared my physical space, and then at the last minute there was a hurdle. There was someone else needing me, very acute, very urgent, and I was a bit in a fleeing mode before the event. Like when the event approached, I was like, why do I feel like I need to be somewhere else? Why do I feel like my like my flight or fight mode is in action and I want to flee, you know? And I was actually congratulating myself for like because earlier in my life my mode would have been freeze. To just receive, you know, freeze and just let it pass and just receive the blow, and not fight or fly or flee. So when I felt that I needed to flee, I didn't really think about it as my intuition telling me that maybe I shouldn't show up to this thing. It was more like I was like, oh great, I feel like fleeing, not freezing. Good for me, you know. And then as it approached, as I said, I had someone needing me, very acute, very urgent, and I was like, oh, what? I need to. Okay, I need to tell them I'm not coming. And I felt equally disappointed and equally relieved, somewhat more relieved, because I felt like I was able to flee something that I really didn't really know why I was fleeing it. So, of course, after that, my self-doubt came up again. And then I had another opportunity just a couple of days later to receive this anyway. And the same thing happened. So the first time was a light hesitation that I should have listened to. It was my intuition telling me, are you sure? And then the second time was my guides in the universe being like, nope, you go there. Go there. I tell you, go there instead. And then the third time, it was the same thing. The interesting thing was the same person that needed me when the event was supposed to happen, needed me for a second time. Like literally, I was about to click enter on my computer because it was an online event. I was about to click enter. I had my phone and I got a phone call. It was like this. So it was like my guys were like, hurry, hurry, hurry. And the same person needed me again. And I just, by that time, when I got the call, I was just, leaning back and I was like, yeah, 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 I'll be there, sure. And then I just turned everything off and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna try this again. I'm so happy it was, because then it just dawned on me. I was like, oh my God, I was about to do something really not good for me. I don't know why, I don't know how, but this was not for me. It wasn't bad. I wouldn't say that was a bad event or bad people or or that like the healer wasn't a good healer. But it wasn't right for me at that time. And then just a week after this, I got another opportunity that was right for me. And if I had taken the first opportunity, I don't know what would have happened. I just know it wasn't the right opportunity for me. And I also think that I probably wouldn't have taken the second opportunity, or it wouldn't have looked the same, or it wouldn't have come my way. And that was what I needed. The second opportunity for healing that I got was exactly what I needed. And it also was in line with my promise to myself to be the receiver and to honor myself by receiving love and receiving healing and receiving care from the universe and from people. So yeah, that's what this video became a lot longer than I thought. But I just felt like I needed to make a few different examples, and the core of it all is, if there's one obstacle ahead of you, look for another path, look for another route. Maybe if visualize it as a block, how will you try to get around the block, or jump over the block, but recognize that there's a block, there's an obstacle in front of you. Second time, stop. Recognize that there's a second block blocking you and try to think, why is it here? Don't just disregard it as a block. Really try and understand, why is this block here? And then if there's a third block, run. Just run. Just go the other way. No, you don't have to go the other way. You don't have to go backwards, but just stop and realize, just put your back to the wall, put your back to the obstacle, and just meditate on it and be like, okay, so the 3 obstacles, this isn't for me. Where am I going? And just by stopping, just by stopping in your tracks, you're doing the right thing. You don't have to take another action immediately. You don't have to look for another opportunity right away. Just stop. Do like I did and just lean back and be like, yeah, I can see where this is, why this is. And I'm not my generation when I do this and not this. So just lean back and accept that this isn't for you. So remember this when there's opportunities, or when there is other things, and in your everyday life. Remember that not everything is for us, say yes to everything if that's your MO, but also listen and take in guidance, so that you don't put yourself in the wrong place at the wrong time unnecessarily. Yeah. So have a really nice day, and make sure you're not the one putting obstacles in your way. Because sometimes that's what we do. Sometimes these obstacles are obstacles that we put in our way. And we still need to stop and think, why did I put this here? Do I not want this in my life? And do the inner work. And then try again. Okay. Walk in beauty. Xingling.